Hey, what's up guys? Spencer here and welcome back to the channel for another video. This video, I thought I had an idea of how it was going to go. I had purchased an older used porter cable mortiser and thought that was going to be the way to go, but then I got it and it just had a lot of issues, and I really regretted the fact that I bought it used. It was half the price of new, but just not working as well as I had hoped. So then I decided, you know what, I'm done with it. I am going to buy a brand new mortiser and I'm going to sell this used one. So time went on, I got onto the job site with my new mortiser and it actually broke on the first job. I think I was on door number 13 out of 14 and it broke. It wasn't an easy fix, and I ended up deciding to actually send back the brand new mortiser and keep the used one. As you can see here at this point, the mortiser breaks. There it is. Something came loose. There's a spring that keeps tension on this cable here, and it came loose. And long story short, it was not an easy fix. I had to finish my last doors on the job with just a spade bit and chisel. Sadly, I was actually on the second to last door, and this was the last day on this house. It was a large custom home, basically at the 99.9% mark as far as work completion goes on a Saturday. So wasn't about to let this stop progress because I had the painter scheduled in to come on Monday, had to get it done. So the spade bit worked all right, was able to get it done with my router template, but kind of just a really huge learning experience with the porter cable mortiser for the first time. These pocket doors are getting prepped for Emtek modern hardware, and I'm using a Templaco jig for my routing operations, and it worked really well. I was very pleased with it. It's a nice thing to have, to just be able to grab and go after you run the mortiser on the doors. I found that whenever I was looking at buying this mortiser, there was very little information available on YouTube or the internet in general, so I'm hoping that this video can be an overview, walk you through the unboxing, and show you some of the features of the mortiser. That way you'll at least have a kind of first grade education on getting into mortising your pocket door hardware. Definitely not a seasoned veteran with this machine, but hopefully something here in this video will be better than nothing for those of you just getting into this machine and looking to purchase one. Assembly is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to it. First thing, you're just going to attach the crank handle. Then we're going to be dropping in the motor housing, and then there's just two screws on the underside here of the base that will hold that in place. I did learn one lesson the hard way that cost me $60 of wasted money, and that is I needed an 11/16 bit to match the Emtek hardware specifications, and that was hard to find in 11/16. I got one from Whiteside, which you see here, and it's actually too tall. You need to get one from a Mana. This bit is made, this cutter I should say, is made more for like the Sauber, I believe it's called, mortiser, but it doesn't work with the porter cable mortiser like this because it's too tall. So if you get the Amana bit, it'll be the proper cutting height, and it'll work with the machine. There is a lever on the machine, and that is going to engage or disengage the teeth on the shaft, which will allow you to pull that motor housing back and mount the machine onto the door. Now, as far as mounting the machine to the door, you're going to want to have the crank handle on your right side and your clamping handles on the left side, and you'll see the gearbox of the machine down on the bottom, and that's how it should be oriented. That way you don't have it flipped upside down. Okay, first problem. I put on my Whiteside bit that I ordered because I needed that special 11/16 diameter bit, and I have the other porter cable cutter down here. The cutter length on the Whiteside bit is 1/16 longer, but there's also like a solid 1/4 inch of extra space on the back here I can see now this is made for a different style of mortiser, and it's not allowing my clamps to sit all the way against the door right here. I've got like an 1/8 of an inch gap. So this bit is too long. I'm gonna have to get something different. And I did end up purchasing the Amana bit off of Amazon with the 11/16 diameter, and it worked great and matched up with the machine well. All right, so a couple of notes on this unit. The gearbox should be down. It should not be up here. The handle should be on the right side, so you're cranking it with your right hand. A couple notes. There's a lever back here that engages and disengages the crank so that the bit will go in whenever you turn it, and whenever you need to pull the whole thing out, you want to disengage the lever. There are two adjustments. One is going to set the depth of your mortise, and one is going to set how long your mortise is. So the depth adjustment of your mortise is down here on this rod, and it's going to be adjusted with this stop collar and a hex wrench. Now here is the width adjustment for the mortise. So you actually turn a knob right here, and you look, and there's a notch in this washer right here. And as you turn this knob, this is going to move up and down, and you'll see there's markings on here, and that's going to set how long your mortise is. I will tell you, I was turning this knob and it was super hard to turn, and I couldn't get it to move at all. I turned this nut right here, maybe a quarter turn, and that completely loosened it up, so now I can adjust it easily. It's a lock nut, so it's not moving, but I may give it that quarter turn back once I get it to where it needs to be. It started out at 4. I need to be all the way up here at 6 3/4, so I've got quite a ways to go. Got it set where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and just tighten this nut again to make sure that it's not going to wander. And again, here you see this yellow notch in this washer lined up with my 6 3/4 mark here. So I've got that tightened down, so my length should be good now. I've got my bit up against here. I need 3 7/8 inches of depth. So I cut a block 3 7/8 long. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to bump this stop up against it, and we'll see how that works out. Now obviously, before we start mortising, we want to make sure it's pulled all the way back and we're not making contact with the mortising bit up against the workpiece. So I've got a gap in there, it's pulled back. Now there's a lever on the back here. This is important because whenever the lever is engaged and you crank the handle, the bit is going to go in. Whenever it's disengaged, that will allow you to pull the router back and push it forward. Now I wrote on here, sideways disengaged, down, that's engaged. But the easiest way to remember is whenever you see these teeth, there's a gearbox in here. When those teeth are down, that means there's something under here grabbing a hold of those teeth. When they're sideways, like this, nothing is making contact in there with those teeth, so the bit can be pulled forward and backwards. All right, I'm going to say goodbye to this one. Set it over here. Got my cord plugged in over here. My bit is back, so go ahead and try this out. Going to engage. If you've ever used this machine or seen it used, you know how much sawdust it makes fly. It's good just to stand back. Should be wearing eye protection. I'm probably not right here. But I found actually using a DeWalt blower and pointing it at the machine as it's mortising really helps keep it out of your face and kind of direct all of the chips and sawdust in a downward direction. And it was really handy to have on a job site versus breathing everything in, especially with masonite doors. It's just a really fine dust. You don't want to breathe that in all day. So that worked pretty well for me. I'm leaving it in real time and not speeding it up. That way you can get an idea of how long it actually takes. It's not too bad, but it takes a little bit to get all the way to the nearly 4-inch depth of the mortise. Whenever you get to the end on your stop, make sure you just stop there. Don't keep cranking. It could cause you problems down the road. Gonna go ahead and unplug it. Alright, so let me now actually just show you this thing in action on the job site. I was on door 11 out of 14 right here. Had a really successful beginning of the day. Everything went super well. I was really surprised how quickly I was able to mortise all these doors. I had most of them done by 10 o'clock, I think. But then the door right after this one, the machine broke, so I didn't get much more video footage than this. But here you see I'm mounting the machine. I just figured out the height to the top of my mortise and figured out where the top of the machine needed to be, and then I would just mark that dimension on the door. Then I could just line up the top of the machine with that. This is sped up so I don't bore you, but you can see the DeWalt blower here. It really helps to keep everything out of your face. Saves you a lot of lung issues breathing stuff in. I actually did have a mask on at the beginning of the day, but I had a hat, headlight, safety glasses, Bluetooth headset / hearing protection, and then trying to put a mask on top of all that just didn't work. So I like the DeWalt blower better. So now we're going to get into the rest of the routing operation for this Emtek modern hardware. You notice the first thing I did was put the latch into the mortise and centered it and marked the top and bottom. Now I'm going to put my jig on it, and I'm going to use those marks and center the jig on those marks and clamp it on with a couple of Craig Automax clamps and begin routing. I'm using two different routers. One is a compact palm router and one is a little bit larger DeWalt router. I think it's a 618, and I really like that router because it's kind of stubby and it works really good for routing in the horizontal position. Both of these routers have a 1/2 inch bit with a 5/8 bushing on it, and that's what this template requires. They're set at different depths, and here you can see I'm using the palm router, going around a couple times and then just blowing it out and making another pass, and that's pretty simple. To get the bit started for the second operation, I'm just drilling through with a decent sized spade bit to give me a good hole to start the router in, and using that spade bit on both sides here. Like I said, my dust mask was annoying the daylights out of me earlier in the day, so here I'm using the old pull your shirt up over your nose dust mask, and that actually worked pretty good too. The router bit that I'm using is a white side spiral bit, 1/2 inch, and that cuts through things pretty well and is going to stay nice and sharp, not dull as much as a typical straight edge mortising bit. So I'm pretty happy. I like using spiral bits anytime I can. Here you can see I'm using one of my DeWalt Tough System totes down there in the corner, and I'm throwing all my tools in that as I move along door to door. That worked really well to keep my templates and routers in, and then I just drug the machine along as needed. Last step of this operation is just using a corner chisel to square up those corners, and then the door should be good to go. I will have links to the routers, templates, mortiser in the notes below this video. That helps support the channel if you buy through those links, and it's much appreciated. For pocket doors with the privacy hardware, you're also going to need to mortise in the latch plate on the Jamb side also. So here I'm inserting the hardware into the mortise, and I'm going to mark on the door where that latch is. So I'm marking the top and bottom of that latch, which is about a 1/2 inch wide. And then I'm going to close the door and transfer those marks onto the jamb. And that's what you're going to see me doing here. I actually forgot, but what I was actually doing that day was marking the center of that latch, and then I transferred the center mark onto the jamb. The nice thing about this plate with this Emtek hardware is that latch plate could be centered, and it wasn't, it was symmetrical basically. So that's what I'm doing. Then you can just close the door, and I'm marking both sides with a pencil. Not just centering it on the jamb in case something is wonky. I'm marking both sides of where the door is in the closed position, and then I'll find the center mark of that and install my template centered on those marks. That's a lot of centering. Hopefully I didn't lose anybody. The template that I'm going to be using for this is also a Templaco template. It's just easier to buy this stuff than make it. Yes, you can make it certainly, but time is money, and these are really quality products. I really like this Templaco stuff. So this is specifically made for this Emtek modern hardware, and all you've got to do is put it on there. I'm using my little torpedo level to plumb it, and then you can see top and bottom it's got these handy dandy nails that you can just tap in, and that'll hold that template in place just fine. Nice thing about it is this template is also set up to be used with a 1/2 inch router bit and a 5/8 bushing. So you can use the same routers that you used on the door. However, you will have to adjust the depths of your router bits differently. So I waited until I had all my doors done, and then I came back to all the privacy doors and mortised these latches then after all my doors were done. There was 14 doors on this house, so I had a decent amount of privacy latches to do also. Again here, you're going to need a hole in order to get your router bit started. With a 1/2 inch router bit, it'd be nice to have a 9/16 bit. I think I actually ended up using a 5/8 inch spade bit here, but it worked just fine. Again, I'm using my larger router here to do the dirty work. It needs to be 7/8 inches deep, so all the way through my 3/4 inch jamb and then some. But for some reason I grabbed that router first. I don't know why. I actually need my compact router in order to do the plate first, because I have that little white part of the template removed here. You'll see what I'm talking about whenever I put it back in if you missed that the first time. But here you're just doing the plate, and then you've got to go deeper for the latch mechanism to go far enough back in there. And I do apologize. I feel like my explaining game is a little bit off today. But again, I'm not a seasoned veteran on this type of hardware, but hopefully this video will be a good introduction for somebody who's going to be doing this for the first time or wants a little bit of a better understanding of what's involved in installing this style of hardware. So here I'm putting in the white plate on this Templaco template again, and this is going to give me that narrow slot that I need for the latch mechanism to go in there, and I'll use that DeWalt router again. This routing operation is basically just up and down, creating a 1/2 inch slot in there. But you do need to start the router with it inside the template and make sure the router is shut off and the bit has stopped before you pull it out, or else good chance you nick that template with the router bit and ruin your whatever it is, $80 or $100 template that you bought. So definitely don't make that mistake. because this strike plate slot is so narrow, my other handy little corner chisel tool didn't work, so I had to get out the legit corner chisel to get these corners done, but it works really well too. But back to where we started at the beginning of the video, this brand new mortiser actually broke on me right here on this door. First house, 13th door. So I don't really know what to say about it. It could have been a little bit of user error, maybe going into that final stop a little too hard, but I don't think this tool should break like that on the first house. They're known for being very versatile tools. You see there it broke. But I did actually end up sending this brand new unit back. I got a full refund. I believe I had purchased it through Amazon. They didn't say a word, took it back. Thankfully, I still had the box and everything for it, and I kept my used unit that I had bought off eBay, and I'm hoping that that one will work out in the future. I did a little bit of work on it and got it running a little bit better. So if you found this video helpful and you think you're going to be purchasing this mortiser, you can purchase it through the links in the notes below the video. That helps me out and that helps support the content like this that I make. Appreciate all you guys watching this video. Hopefully you've learned something. And again, not a seasoned veteran here with this machine, but I hope that it will help somebody out, because I definitely needed an introduction into this machine and there wasn't much available online. So that's why I really wanted to make these videos, especially even though I didn't have a ton of experience with this machine. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about the channel if you like it, and hopefully we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.